What is up, Retro Maniacs? Welcome to Short Prints. My name is Mike. His name is still Joe. His name is still EP, and we're still here to talk about cards. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about how we decide what and where to send cards to be graded. Uh, Start things off with talking about what types of cards we like to grade. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, me? Oh,
Yeah.
I get to go first.
Yeah.
You're the PSA guy.
You're
I am.
big star.
Throw it up there.
I am never submitting with PSA again.
So for me, a couple of different things. Like if there's a card in my PC that I want to have encapsulated, I'm one of those people who actually prefer the look of a card in the slab than like a one touch or a sleeve and top load. It's just me. It's my preference. Collect how you want to collect, but that's how I feel. But also anything of high value that I'm potentially selling, not specifically to increase the value, but to actually protect me when I do go and sell it on eBay or on Twitter or wherever I would sell the card. I feel that card, if it's let's just say for the sake of argument, a Tom Brady rookie card, I want to make sure that that's not a card that's been trimmed, altered in any way, or a card that has been replicated or it's a reprint. I want to make sure, I want the ease of mind as a seller that the buyer also has an ease of mind that is a legitimate card, and then they can't really haggle about the grade of it, the raw grade of it. I want it in a piece of plastic that says this is what it is. It's what it is forever now, and then send it off and not have to worry about someone coming back on me.
Yeah, I think our answers are all going to be pretty similar, Joe and Mike. I think well, the first thing I look at is I don't need to have everything in my collection graded. Like that's definitely not something I'm gonna do. But I do have like certain PC things. Like I want to do this NBA rookie card project, which has a graded rookie card from every NBA Hall of Famer that was playing while I watched. So I think that's a fun thing to do, and it's kind of a unique thing. And so those I would have graded for sure. Otherwise, I'm probably grading because it's something I'm expecting to sell, and I could probably increase the value of it, and obviously to help grow, to help pay for eventually the Jordan rookie in a slab. But yeah, so I look the bottom line I think is like I think of it as how like if the raw value is the amount of value of the to get to grade. So like a $15 card for $15 grading fee, or a $20 card for $20 grading fee, something like that. That's like the baseline bottom, in my opinion. And then I also want to look at the graded values and what they sell for. And that's a big thing too.
Yeah. If I was just going to go off of that point, EP, like if the value is the value of what I could sell it for raw plus the grading fee, and the value after whatever grade I get equals that, I'm good. Because that way it gives me, like I said, the peace of mind that now I may only get the same amount I would have gotten for a raw, minus the grading fee. So,
right.
Sell it 30, cost me 30 overall. But now I have the peace of mind that that's going out, and no one's going to come back and say, whoa, you said this could be near mint to mint, but there's a little white on this corner. Now I want a refund, then we have to have that discussion. Yep. So yeah, for me, that's kind of, if I can make those values equal, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, that's always a good thing when you're selling cards, to eliminate a lot of those nitpicky people. And a lot of people do it just to try to get a little bit of money off. So we all know that. But yeah, I'm the same as you guys. PC cards now, I'm talking pretty much like rarer cards. Like I like my Paul Heyman collection, like the gold refractors that are numbered to 50. Any of the stuff maybe that I'm doing, although I haven't done it with the Prism because there's so many, but like some of the ones where you're doing the rainbow, like I did that out of the finest. I had the one numbered out of 5. So, just to keep them all kind of the same, like autographs, if they're in decent condition, I like to have them slabbed. And other than that too, it's just pretty much any other cards that are non-PC. Like if I feel like I can add value by grading, that's something I'll do. I mean, we're all into this selling cards too, so like you do want to try to maximize value you can get out of it. perfectly honest, a lot of the cards that you get, like, it's just not possible. Like, you look at them, we don't deal in the super high end, super ultra modern stuff. So, a lot of the stuff we're buying will have different amounts of
Mhm.
wear. So, I look through. I'm very picky when I look through those. So, like, but it has to be something that I can, appreciate the value of X amount. Like, a little bit, it's really not worth it. So, yeah, that's how I
And
do it.
especially how the card market is, because it's not worth it to wait then, right? If I can
Mhm.
sell a card, let's say raw for $50, right? But I can then spend the $20 to have it graded with fees and shipping and all that stuff added on. Now I've got $70 into the card because I've got the 50 that I could have gotten for it selling it raw. Now I have the $20 in fees. So now that card, I'm into it for 70. By the time I get it back, that card may not be worth it. That
Especially
Mhm.
card
ultra
may
modern. Yeah.
ultra
Yeah.
modern, especially or the ebbs and flows of if a player's retiring, if a player is moving teams, if there's so many different factors that could play into that player value dropping, that you really have to be certain that the value is going to hold and carry the amount of time it takes to be graded. The grading times have come down drastically compared to what they were
Especially
a
compared to
year
what your
ago,
order was.
especially my 16-year order. But
Everything's
like
faster compared to
everything's
that. Yeah.
super quick. I mean, 6 months is like nothing to me now at this point. But I mean, if you're going to wait on things, you need to make sure that you're waiting for a good reason. Like I use the example of like baseball cards. You can, if you started submitting baseball cards in December, you can wait for them because by the time the season comes up and they're getting that build, you have that time. Football cards right now wouldn't be a bad time to submit those because you have that time you can wait before the preseason buzz. But you got to play that out. You got to look at the turnaround times. You got to play it. If you're going to sell them, you have to play it out like that to determine if it makes sense.
Okay. How about the condition of the cards? Like, what do you look for specifically in the conditioning, and what makes you decide whether or not it's something you feel like you should grade or not?
PP?
I feel like first thing I look at is I want to have everything to be a want everything to be a 10. Like if it's not, it doesn't have a chance at a 10, I might not send it in. The exceptions are vintage cards, or like Joe said, like I have some Kobe Bryant rookie cards that I wouldn't want them to, when somebody look at it and say, oh, I can't grade this, so I'm going to send it back. I wouldn't want to deal with that. So I'd rather just get it graded in the first place.
Mhm.
Once the prices get to a certain level. So yeah, but I look at them specifically. I'm looking at the number one thing is centering for me. I look at centering first, then corners. Like, is there white showing on the corners, or are the corners dinged or rounded a little bit? Those are the biggest things. And then surface is like probably the last thing, because that is a very important thing. But it's got the centering to me is the most important thing, because that really stands out as far as the eye appeal. And I think that's something they really look at as an important point.
Yeah, for me, I'm with EP on the centering thing. Like, if it's for my PC, that's the biggest thing to me. I really want that card centered. I display
Mhm.
cards. I know you, I mean, look over your shoulder. Mike displays cards. I know EP does too. So the centering to me feels like one of the most important thing in terms of eye appeal. But when I'm like going through my process and looking at the card, we might talk about, Mike, I think use a loop, or if you
Mhm.
use a jewelry,
Mhm.
a magnifying. I have an app on my phone that's really good. But I will go around the card. I will look at the edge wear. I'll look at the corners, obviously, and then I'll look for scratches. That's mostly an ultra modern thing. The chromium cards, anything from 2000 and on, where you could have some chromium scratches and things like that. But at the end of the day, I'm not really concerned if it's a 10 per se. It really depends on the individual card. Use TerraPeak. Like, go and whatever card you're submitting, type in that card and start it off. I always look at the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. I can tell if it's not a 10. I can also tell if it's not worse than a 6, except for one example. And that is our most
Not
watched
always.
video. Not always, I'm not always correct, but yeah, so I look at the lowest possible value or lowest possible grade and the highest possible grade, and then that that takes into account what I think as I'm looking through the corners, the edge wear, the centering, where I think it would fall if it makes sense to submit it.
Well, let me just go back on my thing just quickly. Like I said, only a 10, like only have a chance at a 10. That's because I'm expecting a 9, and knowing that I'll probably get an 8 or a 9. But I wanted to have a chance.
It has a shot,
right? A shot at a
if
10.
there's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
grader
yeah.
there who had a really good day
Right.
the night before. You're like, okay,
Right.
maybe like that Jordan or those
Right.
Kobe's that you thought were 7s that came back 9s. You
Right.
know, yeah, if they have a shot,
Okay, I want to be in that range 8 to 10, and I feel like if it looks like it could possibly be a 10, that has a good chance of being a 9, but possibly being an 8. So I want to just clarify that. I'm like, oh, I only grade 10s. Like that's not my game. I just wanted to make sure clarify that.
Yeah, to
says the
that
man
point,
who has the $1,500
Yeah,
Michael
exactly.
Jordan PSA 10 insert. All right.
to that point though, I think really with where the market is now, you almost have to kind of make sure you are sending in cards that have that potential for the 10, because not every card's going to get a 10, but if you're sending in 20, you're hoping to get, enough 10s out of it to make it worthwhile. Like that's really like a lot of people don't understand that difference. Like, oh, I need to get a 10 out of this. No, you need your order. You need to look at your order and figure out how you can make out monetarily. It's not necessarily by every card getting a 10. It's by the right cards getting a 10 and getting enough of them that the overall order, you're increasing the value on the cards. So,
And that's especially if you're adding PC cards in there, because you have to figure those in as like not being part of that.
Yeah. It's really nice when you can give yourself a couple cards that have a chance at a 10 that the value can jump, that then it pays for your grading for the PC cards. So it's not really that you're trying to make a lot of money out of it, but I know, the three of us, we're happy if we send in a 20 card order, say 10 of them are for our PC. If we make enough money on those other 10 cards that we can sell, that it got the price of those out of it, the price of all the grading paid for, and now we have all our PC cards for basically free that were graded for free. Like that's a big win.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we joke around about my 16-year, whatever order. I sent a couple of cards that I thought had chances at 10s. They were 90 MU cards, and they came back. A few of them came back 10s. That paid for the order. It paid for the cost of what the boxes that I got them out of cost. And it paid for the grading of some of the PC cards I was keeping. So yeah, that's the dream as a true collector. That's the dream. You can send those cards in, have those pay for the order, and then you're just swimming in free PC cards because at the end of the day, we want to not take money out of our pocket. If we can sell something to buy something else, that's a way to do it. So if we can grade and sell something to buy something else, or pay for our grading fees on other cards, that's the dream, man.
And you do have to be willing to take a little bit of a chance. Like you're not obviously going to take a card that has a bent corner and send it in hoping to get a 10. But like when you have that card that's a little bit off center, or that one that might have that tiny little tick of something on the edge, like you do sometimes have to take a chance on those because, we've seen the inconsistency with PSA. Plus, maybe a very, very, very minor blemish. They won't take it down to a 9 from a 10. Like a 10 in PSA is not a pristine card. It's a gem mint card. And you do have a little bit of leeway. And like,
what's the centering leeway, Mike? 55, 45?
So it'd be 60, 40.
Supposed to be 60, 40, but it seems like that's
60, 40 card is
they're very strict.
But you do see a lot of cards that come back that are in that range. So
and the nice thing is typically a 9 is going to be a little bit above the raw. Typically it's going to be a little bit better than an 8 and raw. So if you shoot for 10 and get a 9, you're still not going to be that terribly bad.
I would say in older cards that's true, EP. I think
there's
ultra modern.
Yeah.
If you get a 9 in ultra modern, you might as well crack it and sell it raw at that point, because I think people are willing to pay for this could be a 10.
Right. 10, yeah.
I think at that point
a lot of people do that too.
I'm not advocating that. It's a smart.
I think I already know the answer to this, but what is your one non-starter condition wise for sending in a card? It's like if you see this, you're like, no, I'm not sending the card in.
If it's like half a card, but
that's
ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, centering for me.
Yeah.
Like if it's not centered well, then I feel like doesn't have a chance at a 10.
If it's a PC card, for sure it's centering. If it's not a PC card and I'm looking to sell it, I mean, I'm going to look at the corners. I mean, I think if you have a bent or a really worn corner, that's going to pull the grade down pretty significantly. But I feel that PSA really doesn't follow its own guidelines, and we're talking about specifically PSA right now, but in general, I think PSA it doesn't follow their own guidelines when they talk about centering, because I've sent cards that are 55-45 or close, and it's like, I don't know, that should have gotten a better.
It changes on the set too.
Yeah.
Like we know, like 90 Marvel Universe. I know the Wrestling All Stars. Like there are centerings
50-50, baby.
that they prefer, and like that is the big deciding factor. And they definitely don't grade the centering on a brand new card the same as they do a 90 Marvel Universe.
Or a full bleed card, if you think about it. I mean, it's harder. Those Marvel, we've been talking about those Marvels, but any card that has like a distinct border, it's so obvious and it takes away so much from the eye appeal that it's so easy to see. What was it? One of Shaq's rookies. It's an all white border. I forget which one it is.
Yeah,
it's Topps. It's the all white border. I mean, you can see if it's off center. Yeah. It's very frustrating to look at. That's how they dealt with Marvel, the 90 MU set.
How do you feel about a card with just a tiny little bit of nick of white on a back corner?
I feel like every card, front or back, like it's like holding in the NFL. You can call it on every play.
Yeah.
Like if you look at it with enough, something. If you look at it with enough magnification, you're going to find something, and that's probably why PSA's grading can sometimes see like so inconsistent, because maybe somebody pays way more attention to corners than another grader. And I feel like a little bit of white on the back to me is not that huge of a deal. And I'm still, if everything else is perfect, and I'm like, man, this card is so good, I'm still going to send that card in. Like you said, like you're going to, there's always going to be a chance at being a 9, but I'm like, if everything else is perfect, I feel like that one little that touch of white on the back corner should not be enough to make it down to a 10, but I won't be disappointed if it came back a 9, because I already saw that flaw.
One of our favorite Brady rookies, Mike, is the Donruss Elite, and I have one at a PSA 8. And if you look at it at the front, it is beautiful. Like I'm looking at this, being like, should I crack and resubmit this? This looks like it could be a 10. You flip it over, and the top right corner, and I think this was like a consistent thing with Donruss Elite, because I've looked at other PSA 8s and they all have the same corner, which is really weird, has that little bit of white going on there. And I'm like, if this wasn't there, that's at least a 9, maybe a 10. So for me as a person, I'll pay what, 10%, like what's a 10 cost compared to an 8? I'll pay that for my PC card if I'm buying one, because I'm displaying it. No one's going to see that white corner.
Yeah, and it looks beautiful to begin with.
It looks beautiful at the front,
I'm not supposed. This is supposed to be short prints, but I just have to ask: do you think they keep a database of like all the PSA 8s, so they know to look at it and say, "Oh, well, every time we have one of these corners, like everything else is fine, but we have all these other PSA 8s that they're like that." Do you think they have something like that where they reference?
I don't think they do. And oh, Jesus.
Where you go, DP?
Ring's fine.
Wait, did Bailey pull your cord like she did with mine a few weeks ago? I wish they did, because, and here's, we referenced this earlier, is the reveal that we did with the 2 Brady cards that I had. And the one was the Collector's Edge. And it came back as 6. And I'm blown away. I had no idea why. And I looked at it. If that's a new grader who doesn't have that database, they're looking at the centering going, wow, that is really off center. Look at the one foil goes all the way to the top and the other only goes 2/3 of the way. That's how the card was designed. You look at a perfectly centered card, that is how it looks. So I wish they did have that, so they could reference it, being like, oh no, this is how it's supposed to look, or this is a manufacturing defect that is consistent across all of that set.
Okay, final point. How do you decide which grading company you're going to use?
Throw it up there. No, just it depends on the card. It really does. There are some cards that I think look amazing in a tux, because that's what we're talking about a lot of the time. There are some cards that just look absolutely amazing in a tux, and there are some cards that I think need a clear slab. Ultra Modern, I think they need a clear slab. something with a full white border, I think looks amazing in a tux. It's really your taste in terms of grading. If you have a card like a PMG that consistently has bad edges, everything else is generally okay, but the edges are bad, maybe send it to BGS. It really depends on the card and what you're going to do with it. If you're just looking strictly for value, sadly, it's PSA.
I feel like for me, I'm a unique case. If I'm going to buy a slab card, I'm not upset for my PC. Like, I'm not going to be upset at whatever kind of slab that I end up getting. But I feel like if I'm going to send a card in to get graded, even for my NBA project, I'm going to probably send it to PSA. And if that card happens to pop a 10, I'm probably going to sell the 10 and buy another card and maybe get it graded, just because, again, the value's there. I would love for CSG and for SGC and for Beckett to all have for them all to have the same prices, but they don't right now. A PSA 10 is the standard, and it's going to get you the most money. And again, like this hobby is expensive. If you can pay for a bunch of other PC things by getting a 10, might as well take advantage of that. Like, I feel like you're almost foolish if you don't.
Yeah, it's definitely a necessary evil. Like, if anything that you want value out of, anything you might be selling, I mean, you really have to use PSA. Like, why
Other than
leave?
maybe vintage, right? Other than maybe like old.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but still, I mean, PSA still has a premium over even SGC on some of the vintage stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it just is how it is. You play the game by the rules that you have. But, I'm like you, EP. Like, when I'm looking for something for my PC, I don't care what slab it's in. Like, I really do not care. I'm not like you, Joe. Like, I don't care about how cards look in a slab. Like, not really. And I know a lot of people do, and I totally understand that. I just, like, it's not a determining factor for me. So, like, I don't really think about that. But if I'm looking at cards, like when we were at the National, we were looking at cards. I didn't care what slab they were in. I don't have that. I have to have a PSA because, first of all, I'm putting less money into it if I'm buying SGC or CSG. So, like, value is proportional. Like, it's all a percentage of what you paid. It's your return on investment. So, yeah, that PSA card that I bought probably will be worth more money than the CSG. But if I bought the CSG for 10 and sold it for 15, I still made the same percentage of profit if I bought $100 one for 150. Not the same amount of profit, obviously, but still, you have to.
You also have less into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I don't care about PSA other than something that I'm buying that I might sell down the line. So, like, I personally like to use CSG. I've sent a lot of my wrestling cards in there because they're beautiful slabs. They're cheap. It's stuff that people probably aren't going to buy anyway. Like, if I go to sell it, I'm not going to be getting much of a premium because it's in any slab. So, my Paul Heyman collection, if I have a rainbow from Finest in CSG, if I ever went to sell that, I'm not going to really get a premium on that in a PSA slab anyway. So I'll just send it to a company that does a great job. Like I've said before, CSG is very supportive of the wrestling card community, and I encourage anybody who buys wrestling cards that watches this to use them. Give them a chance because they're beautiful, and, like, support the company that's supporting what you like. Like, that makes common sense to me. But yeah, I don't really have any determining factor other than whether or not I need value because I want to sell it.
And what I mean too is, like, for me, looking at, like, I just bought a Bert Emanuel PMG. It's a red PMG. Ooh. Yeah. It's a red
Indy car driver.
Okay, let's stop. One day Bert Emanuel is gonna watch and comment.
My athlete.
He's the dad of the Central Michigan quarterback. So anyway,
that's weird.
Yeah, I know. So his red PMG looks really cool in a tux. It does. Like, if I got that raw, I would send it to SGC because I display my cards, I think that would look really cool in an SG, to the point where the person who sold me that card scuffed up the slab. They put tape on it or something. There was residue. I sent it in and got reslabbed. I didn't crack it and send it to PSA. I sent it to SGC because I'm going to display this card. It looked bad. I'm going to send it to SGC because I want it in that tux because it looks good. There are I collect Kenny Pickett cards. They're ultra modern. I don't think they look as good in SGC slabs. Now, if I'm buying one and can get one cheaper on eBay because it's in an SGC slab, sign me up. But if I'm going to send them raw to get graded, I'm probably going to look at PSA, CSG, or maybe even BGS, something clear that look better with the ultra modern stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I said it like I love SGC slabs and CSG slabs and PS. Like they all look good, especially like you said, Joe. Some of them look better. Some cards look better in certain slabs, but there's nothing against all the slabs. Just like a PSA is where the value is, and
the value is there right
again,
now.
And they all do a good job. They do.
Yes.
People can argue all they want to, but for the most part, yeah, PSA makes some mistakes, but they're grading a million cards a month. They're obviously going to have more mistakes because they grade more. But
10x from the other companies, right?
I hate to say it because I have an order coming tomorrow, but like I've never been like pissed off at my PSA grades. Like,
Oh man, I love
Did you
it.
say that loud?
Well, that's the thing. That'll make for better content now when I open up that order
Those
and they're
PSA
all 4s.
fours.
Yeah,
Those
oh,
fours.
it's gonna be rough. I should have
they're
never
gonna
said
be-
that, but
Nope.
living on the edge out here. Okay, well, that was a good discussion. I hope people enjoyed it and let us know why you decide to use what company you use. Let us know. Tell us. We like to talk to you in the comments. We always respond.
And final point: never send thick cards to PSA.
Yeah,
You're
all right.
begging, you're cruising for a bruising, you're begging to get smacked in the face. Never
Yes,
send thick cards.
absolutely.
To PSA.
All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you next week.
See you, boys.